Good afternoon and welcome to the Joy Show. I'm Barbara Jean, your host, and my pronouns are she, they. I am so delighted that you're here with us today, but let us begin with the land acknowledgement. We are gathered here today. We're standing on the historical land of the Wendat peoples, and more recently that of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Haudenosaunee nations, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island. May we walk alongside our Indigenous family, recognizing our shared stewardship of the earth. Let us carry forward the spirit of unity, understanding, and resilience that we've been reminded of through our reflections. Let us hold in our hearts the intention to learn, to support, and to advocate for justice and sovereignty for us all. In doing so, we acknowledge our interconnectedness and the strength that comes from standing together in truth, respect, and love. And may this intention guide us in our actions and thoughts, inspiring us to contribute to a world where the ongoing journey is towards healing and unity. And by making this acknowledgement, we strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation by honoring the land, the history, as well as the unique heritage and culture of the Indigenous peoples. This fosters our commitment to create a world that works for the highest and best good of all life. So please take a moment to acknowledge your personal commitment to the land you are on and the path you choose to walk going forward. Miigwech. Well, today my guest is Lisa Trudel, and she is absolutely a remarkable, talented change maker in our world. And I have lost part of isn't that interesting? I lost part of the bio that I so happily put into my notes. So Lisa has been working as a career development professional who has dedicated more than 30 years of her life to advancing the rights, inclusion, and success of 2S LGBTQIA plus community members. Lisa has been a career specialist with Achieve, an employment opportunity nonprofit that supports career readiness and employment preparation, and she's been there since 2011. In March of 2020, when the COVID pandemic and lockdown started, Lisa was asked by the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto to write for their 2S LGBTQIA plus refugee program newsletter and to be a webinar guest speaker. Gradually and single-handedly, Lisa created a pipeline between Achieve and Toronto's 2S LGBTQ plus family. And she's proud to have created this first Canadian style resume for hundreds of newcomers. This is a really important thing. Come into the country and find a way to get yourself a job. This is the person that you want to talk to. Lisa is also a proud ambassador for Achieve DEIA staff committee and is doing remarkable work that way. Now, when she did this, the quote that she has is her passion and enthusiasm to support community is because of an inspirational quote she read in 1982 when she walked out of the closet as a femme lesbian. The quote is by American author and activist Emma Lazarus, and it has been her personal call to service as a privileged Canadian-born Caucasian woman. And the quote is, "Until we are all free, we are none of us free." Wow. Well, let's just welcome Lisa Trudel. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you, Barbara. It's great to be here this afternoon.
Well, I'm so happy to have you here, and obviously we're related through my husband. So yeah, everybody, family, but you gotta love family, right? So I just wanted to start because I know when I think back to when I was growing up, because we're of a similar age, and when I was growing up, I had never even heard of a lesbian. So tell me about your journey. Like, how did you how did you know yourself and be willing to step out in the world in such a way that many people even today have not been able to.
Right. Well, I was very fortunate. As it mentions in my bio, I was brought up in a very privileged family, the Trudel family. And I had access my whole life from a very young age to my father's library that was full of everything to do with every kind of literature, film, cinema. I saw my first foreign film when I was 5 years old. I really had a very privileged upbringing to anything to do with the arts. And um, I was very privileged that way. So by the time I was 10 years old, I already knew about Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas. And I knew right away from the time I was 14 who I was. And I know that that might seem unusual, but I grew up in a small town outside of Vancouver, but we also had access to the big city living and to all sorts of information. So that's how I always knew. And when I was 25, I decided to be a radical and to walk out of the closet. And I told my siblings and all the people around me, it was very radical at that time because it was 1982.
Yeah,
Uh, but
yeah,
because I am a woman that has always passed, meaning that I control and have always controlled when I can tell somebody that I am a lesbian, because people will look at me and just assume that I'm a heterosexual, maybe because of the nails and the lipstick. But there's something very powerful about being able to control that conversation. And of course, at that time, when I would come out in my different workplaces, at that time I was working as a secretary in Vancouver, where I'm from. Many people would say to me, I used to, because I worked in such isolation, because I was still the only out lesbian that I knew.
yeah.
And people would say things like, oh, you don't look like one, or how, I don't know what man hurt you, which were all really good conversation starters to educate
Wow.
people. And I've always been encouraged to educate people to human rights because I grew up with a family that supported human rights, and as a proud Canadian.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
that's amazing because I know for myself, I was, at a questioning all through my youth, but never knew that something existed. And so for me, I just felt like there was something wrong with me. And I think there's probably a lot of people who feel that way. Why am
Right.
I attracted to
Yeah.
somebody of the same
Yeah.
gender? Like, I don't get that. Why is that happening? And so for me, it was very odd because I'd never heard of such a thing, probably until I was in my 20s.
Yeah, it just was the way that, things sort of logically happened for me.
Yeah,
But I struggled like a lot of people do. I struggled with my understanding of my sexual orientation. I struggled with who I wanted to be when I grew up. I struggled with where I fit in the world,
yeah.
and I masked that with alcohol and drugs.
Uh,
And it was only when I became 25 years old that I became clean and sober. I have been clean and sober for 42 years. And as soon and sober, I was able to walk out of the closet. And I'm proud to say I've never been a drunk lesbian.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. But it's interesting how we will mask certain things by using, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. We will use things that, I don't know, help to dull the pain or the feelings of separation that can happen as a result. Now, how about in the workplace? I mean, did you have challenges in the workplace when you mentioned you were lesbian that, you know, ever lose a
I,
job or not get
I,
hired?
I had a few people fall off their chairs when they heard. But, I've always been since 1982 very open.
Yeah.
Well, I must confess that of first, few years, I was a little bit more timid. I moved to Toronto in 1987. And when I moved here, I felt incredibly free. And because it was a geographical change from where I'd grown up, and I was lucky enough to find a secretarial job, because we were all called secretaries back then, in 1987, working at George Brown College. And I knew that working in a union environment, I was part of the unionized support staff, I felt extremely safe that I could be who I wanted to be. And it was really only in 1990 when suddenly we didn't have email at that time, but we had like all staff memos came out, and an all staff memo came out for a committee called Affirmative Action. And I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. I think I'll go check that out. And I joined the Affirmative Action Committee that was led by a wonderful woman by the name of June King Shot. And there wasn't very many of us on the committee. And we were a very small, tight group. And it was through that group really that I felt the power to acknowledge who I am and to reach out to other people. And I think it might have been the following year, around 1991, that we put together this small group of us. I think there was only 3 of us in all of George Brown College. We put together a table with our pride flag on it, and to talk about LGB. In those days, it was just LGB, like there wasn't a lot of acronyms, and nobody came to our little kiosk that we had set up, but that was okay. There was no human rights department at that time. And in fact, the newspaper called Extra, which was a gay newspaper in Toronto. And I remember bringing in a stack of those newspapers and plunking them down near the front door next to what was called Now magazine, which was very popular, or Now newspaper. And and the Extra newspaper was banned. It was banned by George Brown College. We were not allowed to talk about anything to do with being gay or lesbian. So that empowered me even more. And it's so wonderful that workplaces have now come so far. So, I really feel that, by not being silenced, by striving, by marching. I was on all sorts of marches. I remember some of the marches I was on where people would throw rocks at us. They'd say all sort of derogatory comments to us, and especially living through the AIDS crisis in the 80s and the 90s. It was a very changing time. And all of that, all of it really created the woman that I became. Fearless.
You know what? There needs to be more people like you, because that does make a huge difference when you have somebody who's standing up and just saying, this is me, like it or lump it, but this is me. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And I think more people need to be in that place. I just have to send a quick message.
Okay, here. Well, I'll talk while you're messaging.
Yeah, please. I don't know if you can hear it, but my neighbor has music blasting.
I can hear it. Yes, I can hear it a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I can hear it a little bit. I thought maybe it was just like echoing from the internet. I was going to say that, being on the Affirmative Action Committee at George Brown College really helped to give me that strength to be proud, be out, to let people know who I was. I, also became, as I said, very active in always being part of the Pride marches. And in 1993, I was part of the Canadian contingent that went to Washington, D.C. for the March on Washington. And I remember at that time lying down on the street in front of the White House. We were demanding, medication and pharmaceuticals to help HIV/AIDS. And of course, today, if I laid down on the street right now, I probably never get up. But at that time, it was a wonderful. There was 1 million people there from all over United States and Canada, and it was a wonderful time, a really energetic time. There was
Yeah.
still a lot of fear, of course, in the workplace. But as I said, I've always felt very secure because of where I worked. I then worked at a nonprofit called the Office Workers Career Center, and I was there for 12 years. And now I've been working at Achieve, which was the employer that nominated me for this
Yeah.
award as Pride at Work Canada Changemaker. And at Achieve, this past year, it was the very first staff committee for DEIA. And,
Wow.
it was so delightful that I was able to be part of that. I am past the age of 65. I'm very proud to be 67 years old.
Yes.
And I'm really glad I stayed past 65 because it was a wonderful thing to do during my last year to be part of the DEIA committee and to see my whole life sort of go in a big circle, wrapped all the way around.
Oh, that's
And of course,
beautiful.
being nominated for this award was the icing on the cake for me.
Oh, I mean, this is incredible. And it really says a lot, I think, about our country and the work that's being done right now, where we're really trying to create equitable environments that work for everybody, not
Yeah.
just
And
the
yeah,
elite
for the
few.
for any of you that are listening to this that are employers, I really encourage you to get connected with Pride at Work. It's a wonderful national organization, and I'm very proud that many of my job seekers, most of them refugees who have come to Toronto in the last few years, are now working at where they're called Pride at Work Partners. So it's a really wonderful organization, and you can see on the slide that's up here is I'm honored to be one of the 15 people that were considered a change maker. I know I probably am the elder of the group, which is wonderful. And like I said, it was the icing on the cake because actually, right after I received this award, I decided that it was time to retire. So I'm actually a retired career professional. I've had a long career of over 30 years of working as a career counselor, a career advisor, resume writer. I have all sorts of different titles. At Achieve, I've been called a career specialist, and now I'm a retired career professional. But I'm certainly not retired from being a change maker. And it is, like I said, an honor to be part of this incredible group of LGBTQ plus people.
Oh, it's incredible. I get so excited because when I hear the news coming out of the US these days, in the ways that uh, the rights of women have been demolished in a number of states, in my mind, and also the LGBTQ, especially trans people are really struggling in the US right now. And I know a lot of trans people who live in America, and it's like it makes me really, really sad to think that somebody has decided that their way is the right way. And like, who gave us the right to decide how you should live,
Mhm.
right? Like, shouldn't we each decide for ourselves? Because I really think all of us are created unique and special. Like, I think every person on the planet has a little something, something that's unique to them that, they'll give into the world. It's important, right? None of us are here by accident. And you have been a force, a
Thank
force to
you.
reckon with. I love
Well,
it.
and especially what really changed things for me as a change maker is COVID. And because, when COVID started in March of 2020, a lot of people, found it really difficult. They lost their jobs. There was a lot of people that didn't like what went on. And for me, I went the opposite direction.
Me
I
too.
was I suddenly, because technology is wonderful, and it's as if somebody pressed fast forward with
Yeah.
technology,
Yeah.
and I was able to reach a lot more people and to help a lot more people. And before the lockdown started here in Toronto, I had already been asked to be a guest speaker in person at the Metropolitan Community Church, MCC. I had been there before doing resume workshops for the refugees and newcomers. And of course, during that last week, a lot of us people were scrambling and canceling things. And I was talking to the woman that had asked me to do that. And she said, well, it's March 28th and there's this weird flu COVID thing. No one even knew what it was. We were just told we all had to go home quickly in a couple of days. And she said, well, we'll cancel that, but there's this new thing called Zoom. So I'll be in touch with you and maybe you can do this Zoom webinar. And then she said, also, we're going to start an online newsletter. Would you be able to write for this newsletter? Because I also write, and I've been writing for many years. I write for a newspaper that's popular in the community called Learning Curves. And so I started to write these articles about job searching for refugees and newcomers. And since March of 2020, I've written 2 articles a month nonstop. And I owe them one more, May the 31st. I know that'll be the last one for a while. But through those articles and then through the job search webinars that I've done for them, I've been able to outreach to a lot of refugees. And many people, yes, you'll see Learning Curves is up there. A lot of people think of refugees, which is really the demographics now of unemployed people in Toronto. They'll often think of the countries such as Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, the Caribbean, Jamaica, the Bahamas. But guess what? I have seen a lot of refugees, LGBTQ plus refugees from the United States. A lot of people are fleeing for their lives from the United States.
I don't blame them. When you look at what's happening in Florida and Tennessee and stuff like that, I watch a program called We're Here. And, these drag queens go into small town USA and put on a drag show. And what they face, holy man, like it's a wonder they're not killed. Like the number of people who actually are so hateful, but I don't understand it. And also looking at, a drag queen is somehow going to harm a child. I'm sorry, somebody dressed beautifully and pretending to sing, like lip syncing. How does that harm a child? I don't understand. And so there's so much misinformation that I think, I still can't believe that Roe versus Wade was overturned in the US.
Yeah, it's often hard to believe we're in the year 2024. But I think that what I encourage most people I meet, younger people, because everybody, and especially, because people do know that I'm working with a lot of refugees. And of course, refugees here in Toronto cannot leave the country until they become a permanent resident, which of course limits many things in their work. But my partner and I have made a pact that we will not visit the United States. And we prefer to stay in a country that accepts who we are. And I'm a proud Canadian, and there's lots of beauty and comfort in Canada. I know that many people prefer the warmth of the southern United States or other countries, but my money is hard earned, and I only want to put my tourist money in countries that accept me. And guess what? Canada is now the #1 country in the world for safety for LGBTQ plus. It used to be the Netherlands, and we surpassed them last year. The Netherlands is now #2. So this is why we have hundreds of LGBTQ plus refugees coming into Canada on a daily basis. Of course, the issue of where people live is a whole other issue. As a career professional, I just focus on resumes, cover letters, and finding work. I don't have the access to being a housing worker, but I know that's a huge struggle for not just refugees, but for everybody because of the cost of living now in Canada.
Cost of living here in Toronto is astronomical. And I know because I serve on the board of directors for the Toronto People with AIDS Foundation, and the amount of refugees that we have that we're dealing with in that one organization is huge, and trying to make sure people are fed and housed and clothed, because they're coming in from countries that have warm climates and they're showing up here in the dead of winter. And it's really, it can be really difficult for people. So, we're accepting donations of every kind, clothing, household, you name it, we will accept it, because
And
people need
so
so much.
And, up until a few years ago, like before COVID, I would never have asked anybody, do you have stable housing? It was just a given that, of course, you could always find some type of housing. But COVID changed not just having Zoom and other technical platforms like this and being able to outreach to a lot more people, but it also changed the cost of living. And now the people I'm meeting, especially the refugees, do live in shelters. But the people I meet that are from countries where they can be murdered are so happy and appreciative to be in Canada. I had a client this past year who, of course, wanted to meet with me on Zoom. And I always tell people, try to be in a quiet place. And that's really hard when you live in a shelter where there's
Yeah.
hundreds of other people around you. So when I first started, she just had her phone. She said, well, it's all too noisy in here, let me walk. And she was walking down the hall, and then she said, oh, here's a private room, and it was the broom closet. And she got into the broom closet, and we're talking, and then all of a sudden in comes the maintenance guy behind, took out a broom and a vacuum and back out again. It was a really funny moment. And I said, hey, you're back in the closet. And she said, that compared to how she lived for all of her life back home in her African country, where she had a great house, she had a great life, she had a great job, but she had to look over her shoulder
Oh,
every single minute of the day. She said she'd rather be here in the broom closet and in the shelter and looking for work again, because she can exhale for the first time in her life. And that really is a summary of the refugees that I'm seeing. They're very appreciative, and they want to work, and they do find work because they're willing to restart and reinvent their careers and to be part of the Canadian economy, to build up the economy. They're very anxious to become, once they're a refugee claimant, they become a refugee, a convention refugee. And then after that, hopefully a permanent resident. And then 5 years after that, hopefully they can become a Canadian citizen so they can finally vote.
yeah, and that's amazing, because even my producer here was a refugee from Mexico when she
Mhm.
came in. And she has been such an asset to my spiritual center, to the shows that I do on the New Thought Media Network, and just everything. She's been a part of my life since she got here. And I couldn't be more happy. And work, man, that girl does everything and never complains,
Mhm. Yeah.
unlike
Many,
many Canadian
yeah,
women.
yeah. Many people have asked me, isn't it tough, helping refugees? Yeah, it might be tough with they don't to teach people about a Canadian style resume or a Canadian style cover letter. There's many countries where you never have to go to a job interview. You just go to university and then you're given a job. So there's a lot of differences, to learn the Canadian culture. But people are adaptable, and
Yeah.
especially my community are the most adaptable and are willing to restart over, because many people have incredible amounts of education. They have PhDs, master's degrees. They've had fantastic
Yeah.
jobs in banks, in all sorts of, NGOs. And they suddenly have found themselves in a different place, but a safe place. And
That's the
it
place.
always just makes me so proud to be a Canadian, that we embrace everybody. And I just wish we could embrace them with a little bit of housing too. But that's for another
Yeah.
conversation.
That'll be another conversation on another day. Well, we're going to take a quick little commercial break. You're watching The Joy Show here on the New Thought Media Network. My guest, Lisa Trudel, and we will be back in just a moment. So don't go away. Lots more to come.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Home Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network.
And welcome back to the Joy Show, and my guest, Lisa Trudel, who is a pride at work change maker. I love that. I love that. So, with the refugees that are coming in, and one of the things I've known, every time I get into an Uber, it seems like I'm being driven by somebody who is a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever from another country, and so I'm asking questions, like, what do you have to do in order to actually work in your field here? And some of them have to completely re-educate. That bothers me a little bit.
That's Canada for you. Yes, especially Ontario. We are the most regulated province in Canada.
Yes,
you can't even work in a restaurant unless you have something called SMART certification. There are very, very few jobs that you can do without having some type of education, especially regulated ones, which would be, doctor, lawyer, nurse,
engineer,
teacher,
accountant.
human resource professional. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. And so, what people need to do, because I'm on the front lines with people that need to solve their immediate problems, is I say you can have two parallel things going on. You can work toward change and getting recertified and going back to school. And many people, even, doesn't matter who you are, Canadian citizens, the majority of an average Canadian has at least 8 different careers in their lifetime. That's not 8 different jobs. That's 8 different careers. So people will change from being a cook to a lawyer to a nurse. I mean, this is really common, and it's been common for many years. I myself have had different occupations. I didn't just grow up to be a career professional. So I think it's about educating people. Yes, I have my first career was to be the world's greatest movie star. Didn't quite get that far. I studied at Studio 58 at Langara College in Vancouver, and I basically made it across the street. And I forgot that you had to have, or I didn't realize you had to have a little bit of talent to be an actor. But some people would say I've acted through my whole life, and I certainly have done that. And I was also a server for a while, a waitress, and I was also, as I mentioned, a secretary. And I've been doing career counseling, since the late 80s, which is an occupation I've loved. But with newcomers, especially, I always encourage them to, get the right information, because there is a lot of misinformation out there. And sometimes you might
Yeah.
not be able to get back to where you were, but you can create a new version of it. Like me as an actor, that was really the little Lisa in me from when I was 10 years old, wanted to be the star on the stage. I never achieved that, but I certainly I wanted it, but I didn't need it. And I became instead, a teacher for a long time. I taught for over 12 years, actually. I taught in the evenings at George Brown College on Tuesday and Thursday nights, in
Yeah.
addition to a full-time job. And I think that it's just about building on what people have. Canada is crying for healthcare, for example. And I'm always happy to support people to become either a personal support worker or an RPN or an RN. And the thing with being a refugee is that you can't go to school until you become a permanent resident. So does take a while to get through all of those stages to do what you need to do. But I think there is nothing wrong with accepting what we call a bridge job or a survival job, like being an Uber driver. Many of us, and myself included, we've had many jobs that we never put on our resume. It's just to put food on the table. And I think the biggest thing is not to get stuck in it, and to always have the goal to aspire to get where you need to go. Many people that I speak to are always amazed that I've always had 3 sources of income. And that's why I'm so happy to be retiring, because I've worked pretty steady since 1975, which is almost 50 years. And throughout the years, I've always had one job, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And then I used to be paid for my writing. And then I taught for a very long time. So I've had these different streams.
Yeah.
And I always say to my clients, think like an octopus, because, they're amazed because they think, well, you're a Canadian born woman, how come you can't have enough money to have this great life? But, it's still a lot more complicated than that. So I really encourage people to move forward.
I love that. I love that because I know even myself, started working retail first, and then I worked for a newspaper for years and did a number of different jobs there, driving around, dropping off proofs for advertising, and then on to administrative type work, and managed to work my way through that, then went to school, then went into real estate, and then went into ministry. It's like, da-dun, da-dun, da-dun.
Yeah, a real roller coaster. And in many other countries, it's not like that at all. And so Canada is very different. And I think a lot of people are very surprised how hard we work. We work really hard in Canada. We have great human rights. So far, there's no bombs dropping on our heads here, but we work really hard for the rights that we have.
Yeah.
Legally, you only have to have 2 weeks off a year if you work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I still, at this time, after all these years, I have 5 weeks vacation a year, and some countries have a lot more than that at a much younger time. And we also pay a lot of taxes. And there's some countries that don't pay any taxes at all. And so a lot of newcomers are really surprised that they're going to have to, half of their paycheck will go to pay taxes. And I always say it goes to pay for our healthcare. We don't have free healthcare. Our healthcare, we earn
Yes.
it. And we pay for it. And we pay for our public libraries. We pay for our city streets, our public parks, our national parks, and for the services at Achieve, which is funded through Employment Ontario. So for the past 13 years, all of the services at Achieve have been is totally free.
So that's awesome that people can go and get what they need, so they're better prepared to live in the country and do what they need to do and succeed, right?
Yeah. And everybody needs a coach, just like an athlete needs a coach, a job seeker needs a coach. You need to be able to, understand what a cover letter is, what a resume is. And now, of course, it's important to have a LinkedIn profile as well. And
Mhm.
I hear some feedback coming again. Oh, I think that stopped now. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and that was just, I'm not sure what that was. Yeah, I think having a LinkedIn profile, I have one and I don't use it, and I probably should. So
There's mine. See, I use mine
there's
all the
yours.
time.
Yeah,
And this weekend, I'll be revising it slightly to put up my latest endeavor, which is retired career professional. Because,
retired.
yeah,
Yeah,
because this has just happened. If
wow,
anybody that's listening to this wants to get in touch with me, you can always find me on LinkedIn. And through LinkedIn, I can respond to anybody.
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, because just because you've retired from your Monday to Friday doesn't mean you're not doing sort of a little bit of stuff on the side. So,
And I'm never retired from being a change maker. And I will be looking for, volunteer work and writing contracts after the summer. For this summer, I'm taking a pause. Um,
nice.
but by the fall, I'll be reinventing myself yet again for this next chapter of my life.
I love it. I love it. I think there's something about always sort of moving forward in life, like always striving for something. It's like we stop this, but we don't stop living. We don't stop sort of participating in life. We just no longer have that employer. And now so I love that because that's great information for anybody that's getting up there in years. I mean, you and I are the same age, and I haven't retired, obviously. Don't intend on doing it anytime soon. But like you, I have numerous ways that income finds its way to me. And that makes a big difference being more entrepreneurial.
And I think that, the Canadian economy does go up and down. There's times when it's easy to find a job, and then there's times when it's hard to find a job.
Yeah.
Nothing is permanent except for maybe taxes. Things just go up and down all the time. So it's really important for people across the country to know that there's all sorts of free services to help people with all of these essentials that you need. And sometimes we just have to be reminded or updated too, because job searching has changed a lot from, say, 1995. It's not just one resume and one cover letter. It really is many different things now. And some people have said that soon resumes will become obsolete. And, because of chat GPT and AI, artificial intelligence. And it's very true that, things could be very different in 10 years' time. So it is important for people that have more than 10 years left to work to keep up to date with how things are changing, and to activate and to use, just like using the public library and our healthcare system, to also use these services that are in every province in Canada.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, that's so important. That's what's interesting, when you think about the 2S LGBTQ plus family and all of the um, sort of all the journey from when you were born in the 50s now to where we're at in 2024, and yet there's still a lot of work to be done.
Oh, yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done for sure. And I can see it just from this past year being on the DEIA committee at
Mhm.
Achieve. We've had, surveys go out, and I've heard from coworkers or colleagues that have said, why do we need to bother with this? Who cares about diversity or celebrating other people's, you know, um, their religion. There's a lot of discontent, and there's a lot of all sorts of things that go on. And it's really important, I think, for people just to become more knowledgeable and to be accepting, because it is one of the parts of, I think, of the fabric of our country, is that we are a country that celebrates and accepts everyone. Canada is built on immigration, and it's really important that we continue with that. And despite what's going on with other countries, and despite what's going on with politics and what we hear or read about in the media or in social media, it's important to always have our own integrity. When I was growing up, in British Columbia as a young girl. I remember one of my teachers saying, never let a day go by without thinking of it like that you've painted a picture. And the your autograph, you've got to be able to be proud to put your autograph on that picture. So to be proud of what you've done each day and to be
Oh,
grateful for what you've done each
yeah.
day. And that's what I have been trying to do over the last few years since I've, as I mentioned, since March of 2020 when COVID changed the world.
Yeah.
And I've really tried to incorporate the knowledge that I have to help our newcomers.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, it's a lot of what I do as well. Find ways to acknowledge support and, just help people moving forward as they integrate. Even simply, I was at a World AIDS Day event a year and a half ago, and there was somebody there that was, I mean, it was December 1st. It was probably 15 or 18 below that day. It was very cold. And there was one person standing there who was wearing sandals with their bare feet. And my heart just, mm. I had an extra pair of socks in my bag, which I thought I might need. And I was well dressed, but I thought I might need a second pair of socks. It was cold, cold. But I gave it to this person. I knew it wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. And when I think about that, there's so many ways to educate newcomers, especially when they're coming from African countries where they think this is the land of bread and honey, which it can be, and the climate's very different. And if there isn't an understanding of cold until you've experienced it. And I mean, I've been raised in Canada, but I went to Winnipeg one winter. I'll tell you, I was not prepared. It was minus 54 when we were there. And it's like that just takes cold to a whole new level that if you haven't experienced it, you have no idea. So I think there's so much in the education. And when I think about the rights of women, the rights of the to us LGBTQ plus family, I think all of that really is like our show on Wednesday was U equals zero, right? So a lot of people don't understand that around HIV, that if it's undetectable, it's also untransmittable. And a lot of people don't know that. And so when we're educating about so many things at one time. And for me, I think love is something that shouldn't be put in a box or designated to one specific person or lifestyle. Love is the energy of connection and possibility. And I think that should be available to all.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really should be. And I think, everyone I've met over the years, and it's been hundreds of people, not just refugees and newcomers, but everybody, whether they're LGBTQ plus or heterosexual, people just want to be treated with respect, and their story wants to be heard, and they come in front of me because they're lost their job or they don't have a job. And it's a very specific thing that they're looking for. Just help
Yeah.
with the tools that are needed so they can reinvent their life. And it's just getting from point A to point B and to navigate their life. And it's really been a wonderful profession that I've had. And it was a profession, I think, that found me. I didn't find it. And I'm really grateful that it found me because I've enjoyed it. And that's why I think I've worked so long.
Yeah.
When I was a young girl, I also aspired, in addition to being an actor, I really wanted to be a writer. And that was
And
something
you are.
yes, I just never thought that I'd be writing resumes. A great fiction writer.
Well, now you'll have extra time to do some other types of writing as
That's
well,
right.
which is beautiful, which is beautiful. So, what do you think, as you're looking at sort of reshaping your existence, what do you think, is kind of your next little thing or big thing? Like, what
Well,
is it you're going to do moving forward?
I have thought about that because, I thought, well, maybe I should, be a volunteer doing what I do, but I'd like to do something different. And I think, when I think of the acronyms of DEIA, I would
Mhm.
like to spend more time focusing on the A, which stands for accessibility, because I'm also a person with a disability. And
Yes.
I've always also been very open about that as well. In 1995 and the beginning of 1996, I had been diagnosed years earlier with a bowel disease called ulcerative colitis. And in January of 1996, I had my intestines taken out, and I've been living ever since with a permanent ileostomy, which is like living in an altered state.
Mhm.
And I think that, because it's an invisible disability. So I'd like to spend more time focusing on the A of DEIA,
Oh, I
and
love
and
that.
focusing on that part,
Yeah.
just because it's something I've never spent a lot of time donating my energy to. Something a little different from resumes.
And it's so important because there are so many people today with different disabilities that again are not visible.
Mhm.
Like even myself, before I had my hip replacements, it's like couldn't stand or walk, but I appear to be a younger woman. So why is it that I have a disability pass in my car? Well, because I couldn't walk. So when we look at some of these things, I think if we could stop judging by appearance,
Mhm.
but take the time to have curiosity when we meet somebody new, what a different world that would be.
Yeah.
That would be very exciting.
Mhm. I think so. I think I might also do a few other things too. I've been threatening to get a metal detector. When I was a young girl, it's funny as you grow older, you think back to when you were younger. I read
Yeah.
all of the Nancy Drew books, and one
Yeah.
of the Nancy Drew books talked about Nancy with her metal detector, and I've
Mm.
always wanted to get one. So I have every intention of getting myself a metal detector, and I want to go searching for old coins or old jewelry, rings or thimbles or something that have been thrown away. I have no idea where I'm going to do this. But it's an image maybe that I've always wanted to, something I wanted to try. It'll get
Oh, that's
me out
awesome.
into the outside. And,
Yeah.
because I still, I want to find a way to keep moving and to look for hidden treasures, something totally
I
different.
love that. I love that. We'll see you down at the beach.
Yeah. The Nancy Drew in me might come out.
I love that. It's interesting how we have these ideas that as children, that then resurface
Mhm.
again later, which is really, really powerful. I love that. I love
And
that.
and I also want to do a little bit more writing as well. I've always aspired to write a little bit more, and of course, I've been writing, but it's been resumes and job search articles. So I might just do a little bit of creative writing. We'll see where that goes.
Well, it might be time to write a book
It could be.
about being a proud, powerful, positive lesbian woman. Like, just this is me, take it or leave it. I,
Right.
I think that message in and of itself for women, is all women, is so
Mhm.
important because there's a little bit too much of women playing small,
Mhm.
letting things slide. And also the world around us, that even if a woman is raped, it's like, well, your word against his kind of thing. Like there's still that going on, which is quite horrendous. And I think, having somebody as powerful as you, who has really stood in your uniqueness and expressed it to the world without apology, I think that's a really, really important story to be told.
Okay. I'll see what I can do for you, Barbara.
Oh, you got a book to write. So we're down to our last 5 minutes, if you can believe it. The time goes by so quickly. And I'm just curious as to what it is that you would like people to take away from this conversation that might be helpful to them or to the people they hang with or whatever. What is one piece of advice you'd like people to take away?
Oh, it's hard for me to come down to one piece of advice
Oh,
because
we got time for a couple, I
if I
think.
can do a top three at least.
Sure,
I
top
think
three is good.
I think definitely because I come from the world of career counseling as a career professional, it's about don't assume that what you did back 5 years ago to find a job will work today. Reach out and get some help with that resume, that cover letter, that LinkedIn profile. Use the services that are available. Excuse me. The other thing would be to find I don't want to say a job because it can be just a career that you really do enjoy. Because when that alarm clock goes off in the morning, you want to be able to wake up with some joy. And, most of us have to work 7, 8 hours a day, 40
Mhm.
hours or plus more a week for a very long time. Like I said, I've worked for 49 years. So it has to be something that you really do feel gives you that you have that connects with your values and what connects with what you need, not necessarily with what you want. And I think with that, you'll be able to really be in a peaceful, contented place. I also think it's really important for people to accept and to be a change maker in any way possible, whether it's through acknowledging people with invisible disabilities, diversity, inclusion, and we can start really small, just in our own little world around us or in our own workplace.
Absolutely. I think that's really important information. Just be you. Everybody else is taken. So
Mhm.
just find a way to be okay with who you are, what you love. And I do love the idea of doing what you love to do. I only do what I love to do. And it makes it so easy to work. It's like all of a sudden work isn't work. It's your pleasure.
Yeah.
It's what you do to satisfy and fulfill your life journey, which is so beautiful. I love that. I
I
love
think
that.
it was Mark Twain that says, once you find work that you love, you'll never work again.
You'll never work again.
Mhm.
Well, I got to say it's true because I don't work. There was some aspects of my job that I've recently let go of because that was work. And it impinged on my joy. So give that up and do what you love. And for me, I've been doing that for a while, and I agree. Do what makes you happy, and you will never work a day in your life. Well, I am so excited about this conversation, and I would love to have you join us on Out of My Mouth, which is a Wednesday show to talk about the the accessibility, and being able to really talk about all the different ways that we limit people based on things that we can't see or don't know about. And, as for our health, we don't have to share that with everybody. Last week, we had somebody on who was talking about HIV and what's going on with that. And we've had people on who've done all sorts of different things. So I'm really excited to have that conversation.
That would be great, Barbara.
Yeah.
I look forward to
Lisa,
that.
thank you. This has been an incredible opportunity for me. I've really loved everything you've had to say. And I know moving forward, I hope people will reach out to you because you do offer a very positive, productive, and reasonable approach to getting back into the workforce and being the best person that you can be. So thank you, thank you, thank you for saying yes.
Thank you very much. And
Mm,
to all the listeners as well.
yes. Have a great day, everybody. A great week, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Joy Show here on the New Thought Media Network. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we will be back here again next week. So be sure to come back in and join us. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Happy Friday.
Bye.
Bye, Lisa.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.